Hello and welcome to Susa Plays. Today we're gonna try a new game. It's Blood Bowl 2. It's a game I got recently and I've had a lot of fun with it. It can be described as a mix between American football and strategy and a little bit of Warhammer, if you're familiar with that series. And I've had a lot of fun with it. And I thought maybe we'd try making a video of it and see how you guys like it. So I'm going to log in here. You might notice that like a doofus, I misspelled my own name, but it's too much work to change it now. So I'm gonna log in and I'm going to play. Now these are the commentators. I've actually turned off the audio, so you won't really hear them in the background. You'd rather hear my voice, I'm sure. The way the game works is that the object is to score a touchdown by moving a ball down the field using your players. And, well, I'm gonna get started and we're gonna make a new team for this. So, as this is a Warhammer game, you can choose your team between different races. You have High Elves, Dark Elves, Bretonnians, which is a type of humans, Chaos, Lizardmen, regular humans. Yeah. So, well, let me start by saying that the lore of the game is actually that in the Warhammer universe, the people there found an old Colosseum type building, and in it there was a book, a tome, which was actually the NFL rulebook, like the rules for American football. Now, since they didn't know what it was, they thought it was a sacred text, a sacred tome of Nuffle, Nuffle being the god of randomness and dice and whatever. So, in honor of Nuffle, they now play the game of American football. The similarities aren't that many though. There's a ball, and you try to catch it and take it to the end zone to score a touchdown. But I guess that's as far as they bothered to read in the rulebook, because that's basically the only rules. After that, anything goes. So there will be lots of violence and lots of hilarity, as is usual in the Warhammer series. So, however, I have played a little bit of this game. I have about 35 hours in it, so I'm not an expert by any means. I started off with a human team, which got wrecked and didn't go very well. I didn't really know how to move and so on. So after a few games, I lost a few players because they actually die if you get tackled hard enough. You can't save them, and you lose your players, and you have to buy new ones. And if you can't afford that, well, you're in trouble. So I started again with a Lizardman team, and this was much easier because the lizards are stronger, and they have these small dudes called skinks that are fast and agile and can steal the ball and run into the end zone, while the big guys just beat down everyone. So that was very, very much fun, and I still have that team, and I play with it in the PvP multiplayer online leagues. However, we're not going to be playing online here because of a few reasons. First of all, online isn't really suited for a YouTube series because the games, you don't know who you're playing. They might be talking smack and, you know, being rude, and usually if the game doesn't go the way of your opponent wants it to, they might just resign the game after the second turn, so which would make for a very boring and short video. Or I would have to play many games in one video, and then you run into a long game, and the problem with that is that the longer games can take over an hour. So it would be very hard to know how the videos would go. Also, since the opponent also have to take time and think, it will be pretty slow while we wait for them to make their moves. And more than that, I've actually had some trouble finding opponents to play lately. Might be that the game already is losing popularity, but I don't think it's that. Maybe it's my connection or something. So I'm going to play the single player mode and play against the AI, which admittedly is not as fun as playing online, but I think it's more suitable for a let's play. Now, I've already played as Lizardman, and I've also have a Chaos team that I've played in a single player league before. Chaos are very much suited for bashing and killing your opponents, or rather injuring your opponents, and winning by sort of depleting their team and leaving only you on the field to score at will. Which is very fun, but I've already played as Chaos, so I'm gonna do the opposite now and play as a High Elf team. Now, High Elves are pretty weak physically, but they're very agile and good at passing. And the Skaven team would also be sort of a mix between agile and bashy, but I'm gonna go all out agility and go for a High Elf team. Now, as you can see here, they're excellent at passing game, more sturdy than they seem to be. They have a little bit of armor value compared to the rats that have even less. And any players are potential stars because all of them have high agility, all of them can handle the ball if needed. But they start off with few skills, and they're not the best at fighting, and they're pretty expensive. So if they die, you might not have cash to replace them. I hope since we're gonna be playing the AI, and the AI is not very smart, we might be able to stay alive. So let's go with a High Elf team. Now, the team name, I am not very clever, so I'm just going to be calling them the Zeus Players. That's my team. Team motto. Oh, I haven't even thought of this. But, what can I think of here? Watch my videos. You're already watching my videos. Why would I enforce this on you? Videos. And we get to pick a logo. Dragon is nice. Is this some sort of lion? White claw. Ball with a... How about this one? Unicorn. That's puncture the ball. Right. Jersey. Alright, we have to pick the colors. Which one looks good? Purple, perhaps? Yeah, let's go with purple. Purple outfit. Okay, and we have to pick a stadium. This will be where we play our home games. It's just the background. Badlands, Old World, Nagaroth. It's usually one of them is for each race, really, but you don't have to play with one that's associated with your race, and I don't really know which one is associated with High Elves. So let's play... Well, that's the Dark Elves, I think. This is probably the Dwarves. Let's go with the Dwarf Stadium, it's okay. And alright, we need a stadium name as well. Oh, I haven't even thought of this. Well, how about the Zeus Stadium? Yes, very good. Alright. At least I did think a bit about what to name my players, so that's a little bit better. No, we do not want to automate the choosing of a team. This video is going to be me choosing the team and, you know, doing the general introduction. And then for the first game, I will probably make a second video. So those of you who want to skip this can go straight into the second video, as I will also mention in the video description, as I should have mentioned at the start of the video, but I forgot. So we do not want to let our assistants do that. Now we have high elves have 4 types of players available, and they all look the same, unfortunately. There are slight differences in the armor, but anyway. Linemen are, standard players. They don't have any special skills. They're pretty expensive. They cost 7,000 gold. 70,000 gold. There's zeros there, you have to count them. You have 1 million from start. So that's going to be enough for 11 players. You have to have 11 players on your squad for the first game. If you have less later on because of deaths or injuries, you will get some substitutes for free, but they will be a little bit worse than regular players. And also they won't be able to level up, which is the goal, is to get your players better. So anyway, the linemen are the standard ones. Throwers they have the same stats, but they have starting skills, pass and safe throw, which are of course good for passing. That's why they call the thrower. The catcher have the same stats but catch, but they have 1 less armor value, which means they get injured or stunned or knocked out easier. So we probably won't go with many catchers. We would rather have linemen, but it could be good to have someone with catch if we want to do passes. They also move further. That's the most important part. They move 8 steps instead of 6. And then we have the blitzers, which have 1 higher movement than a regular lineman, and also start with block, which is a very useful skill. It's basically this game was originally a board game that was adapted digitally in Blood Bowl 1, and now this is Blood Bowl 2. It still runs on the board game mechanics. So whenever you try to tackle or pass, you actually roll dice to see what the outcome will be, and block in particular makes one of the dice rolls that would usually be bad for you be instead good for you. If you it will show later on when we start to play. So I definitely do want some blockers. Now we can't have all blockers. We can only have 2 blitzers on the team maximum, 4 catchers and 2 throwers. Now we can have 16 linemen, and 16 is the maximum anyway, so we can have as many linemen as we want. So ideally we would have 2 blitzers, 4 catchers, 2 throwers, and the rest linemen. But you do want to keep in mind that you don't have an infinite money here. There's also a transfer option here, but it's not implemented yet, so you can't really buy any players from other players of the game. So, but at least I think we're gonna need these blocks, really, if we want to have any chance of knocking down the opponents if they happen to get the ball, which they will eventually. So I'm going to buy 2 blitzers. Now, you can name your characters, of course. And here's the problem. You already saw how bad I was at choosing names. So I thought I would name them after elves from other fantasy series and games and popular culture that I are a fan of or enjoy. So the first one, of course, is gonna be Legolas. I am a big fan of Lord of the Rings, and if you're gonna play elves, you gotta have some mention of Tolkien, don't you? So Legolas is our first elf. He's gonna be a blitzer. I'll buy him because what did a blitzer cost? Already 100,000. So we couldn't buy 11 blitzers, even if we could. We wouldn't be able to afford it. Now we're gonna need 2 blitzers. So what's the other blitzer gonna be? I'm thinking well, let's see, yeah. Not everyone will get this reference, but he's gonna be called Yeolarn Bronze Leaf. That's actually from EverQuest, for those of you who remember that game. I played that for several years. Admittedly, I've never played as a high elf or spent much time in the high elf area, but I do recall that Geolan Bronzeleaf was an NPC that you turned in bone chips to gain faction with the High Elves, and so he's pretty well known as an NPC from that game. However, he was a cleric in that game, but there are no clerics in this game, so we'll have him as a blitzer. It's a new career. There's not that many people playing EverQuest, although it still has a pretty big following. It's actually free to play as well. So here we go. There we have 2 blitzers. Now I'm thinking we get maybe 2 catchers. They still have strength 3, which is good. As the lizard men, I had the problem that the catchers, or the skinks, the little lizards, they only had strength 2, which meant that they would be pretty useless in combat, or if they got tackled or marked. But these catchers seem to be pretty sturdy, and they have good movement allowance, which is pretty important. Now we don't want them to get tackled though because of the armor value, but let's go with a catcher. Now since he's fast, I'm gonna name him Stallion. Now that doesn't sound like an elf name, you might say. It's a reference to a game series called Suikoden, or however you pronounce it. The first game, or in some of the other games, there was an elf called Stallion that you could use, and he had the ability that you moved faster when he was in your party. So because of that, he was naturally a favorite character of everyone playing that game. Because who wants to move slowly, right? So I think he's a perfect catcher. Now I'm just going down the line here with the different heads, trying to make them different from each other. So Stallion will look like that. And we're gonna need at least 1 more catcher, but I think I'm gonna stay at 2 catchers and 1 thrower for now to save some money because you'll have to buy some team upgrades as well, so you don't want to spend a lot of money. There are some important things we need for our team. I'm gonna get 1 more catcher now. And who will this be? I actually have a list here. I had to think a little bit of the names here. Let's go with Evander. Not Evander Holyfield, sadly. Probably have to play as a orc or human team to get Evander Holyfield. Evander was an elf in the Devery series. It's a fantasy book series. And don't need to say any more about that. We will see if he makes a good catcher. Even though in that in that series he was more of a spiritual creature but as close to a high elf as you might get. The other one was more ordinary wood elves. What do we call it? There is a wood elf team in the game as well, but you had to pre-order to get it, I think. At least I don't have it. Now, who's gonna be our thrower? Now, oh, I forgot to check the head in the last one. I have to check it after this one. I'm gonna name the thrower. Did we use that head? No, we used that one, right? I'm gonna name the thrower after. This is not an elf from popular culture or anything like that. Not much of an elf either. But I'm gonna name him after my first subscriber and my real-life friend. So I'm gonna name him Pete Stardust. There we go. And so that's not. If you don't get that reference, that's okay, because that's not a reference for anyone to get. So there we go. The thrower is a friend of mine, and if he gets killed, well, I'll probably lose my only subscriber. Or, well, I actually have more than one now, but for a while he was my only subscriber. And we're gonna fill up the team with linemen now. We need 6 of them. So let's go with head number 6. And I'm just gonna go down the list here. I have a Artia, or Artie. That's from a game called Lufia and Lufia 2, Rise of the Sinistrals. Lufia 1 and the Fortress of Doom. If you haven't played it, you won't know what that is, but it's an elf who was part of your party in that game. So he's going to be a lineman here. And if you do leave a comment or a subscription or whatever, you might even get recruited for the team. Did we use HUD 7? Oh, no, I don't think we have this one yet. I'm gonna name this one, doesn't really fit, but Varsuvius. That's from Order of the Stick, the webcomic. I'm sure many of you are familiar with. And if you're not, then you might want to check it out. It's pretty good for if you like D&D and humor and cartoons. Hey, I'm making all kinds of recommendations here. One more lineman. What's we up to? We need this one then, and this one's gonna be called. Here we go. Since we're into webcomics right now, we're gonna name this one Shandia, which is an elf from another webcomic called Will Save World for Gold, which I actually know the creator of a bit. Online, I know him online, I don't know him in real life, but... And this is an elf from that comic. It's actually a female, but who can tell with elves, right? And we're gonna move on, and... Well, I was kind of running out of elves to reference here, and I thought, well, Tolkien is worth another elf, so he practically popularized the elves as we know them today. If it weren't for Tolkien, there would be probably no elves in the games we play today. So Gil-galad, the Elven King of old, will be a lineman, and hopefully he will do well. And one more, actually two more. I must have missed something. Yeah, okay. I'm a big fan of the Final Fantasy series. Now, Final Fantasy doesn't really have any elves, but in the first Final Fantasy game there was actually... I used 9, right? Oh, we're out of heads. Okay, never mind. Let's reuse number 1 then. In the first game there was a village of elves, but they didn't really have names. This was a very old NES game, but there was a prince who was cursed to sleep forever, but you had to save him to progress the story. So he was the Prince of Elfheim, and since he's the only Final Fantasy elf I can really put in here, they don't really have elves, even though it's fantasy in the name. So, Prince of Elfheim, there you go. And one more. I was really running out of references at this time, so I played a little bit of Dragon Age Inquisition, so therefore Solas is gonna be with us as an elf. Now, can we find one that's old? No, we cannot. It have to be this one then. But we used that twice already. Let's have him as this guy then. And there we go. And we are pretty much out of money. So we've confirmed the purchases, and now we have to buy the staff. Now, the apothecary. This allows you to, if your player gets injured or killed, you have a chance to re-roll the injury, which might mean that you can save them. There are also other injuries which would be almost as bad as dying, which might be that your strength goes down or your movement goes down, which would really make the player unusable. So the apothecary is very, very important. However, we're not going to get one. We're going to get 2 re-rolls instead. This means that if we roll the dice on our turn and the results are bad for us, which might mean that we lose or might get in a very dangerous position, we can re-roll them 2 times per half. There are 8 turns per half. So this, I think, will allow us to possibly change a terrible result into one that might be favorable for us. And well, the apothecary we can hopefully get as soon as possible. The thing about this is that they get more expensive once you've played your first games. The price of the rerolls will go up. I think it goes up according to how many you have. So the more you buy, the more expensive they get. The apothecary, however, will always cost 50,000. So it's better to buy this one later and buy the rerolls first. That's what I've learned anyway. Now we have 10,000 more. We could buy a cheerleader or a coach assistant, which gives us a minor bonus to certain events that might happen at kickoff that are random, but I don't think they're very important. And the more money we spend, the more team value we will have. Basically, your team value is, well, as for every 10,000 gold you spend on your team, you gain 100 team value. No, wait, you gain 10 team value. So for every 1,000 gold you spend, you gain 1 team value. So at present we would have 990 team value, since we haven't spent our last 10,000. And I'm not going to. I'm going to press done, and there's our team. Unfortunately, they all look kind of the same, but you can see the Blitzers have these high pointy helmets. It kind of looks like rabbit ears maybe. And then you have the thrower, he has this big ponytail on his helmet. The runners have these sort of feather-like appendixes, and the linemen just have the regular pointy helmets. So when they're on the field, you will see the differences better. And well, that's it. Well, no, it's not that's it yet. We have to go back, and now this was my first team that I talked about, the human team. This is my lizard team, and this is my chaos team. Now here's the hive team, it's just players. Now we have to register for a league. Now here we can join a league. Multiplayer you'd have to play over the internet. As I said, I won't be doing that. I will be playing solo league, and I haven't really decided what type of league we'll play. The cup is just a single knockout competition. It'll be very short then, I suppose. Yeah, you basically only have 5 games to finish it. It's I think I want to play in a longer format, because then you get to develop your players. You gain experience, or SPP, star power points, when you score touchdowns, when you make a pass, when you make an interception, or when you injure or kill an opponent. Those are the only ways you gain SPP. And then after the game is over, one player gains an MVP award of 5 extra SPP. But that's random, so you can't really control who gets that. Championship would be a single round robin competition, and the team that wins is the one with the most points in the competition. So it should be kind of a league. Round robin, 1 groups. How many teams can you have? 30 teams, so I mean 29 games. That's pretty long. 32 teams. 2 teams, that's just a single match. That's not really a league. What about 0 qualified? I think we'll go for what else do we have? We have a regional league, 4 parallel round robin competitions. First and second of each pool are invited to a knockout competition. So it'll be more like the actual NFL then, where it's like a playoff after the round robin, but you don't play in the leagues really. And the old world league, this is what I'm playing on my chaos team. It's 4 groups. It's sort of a, what do you call it, division style. So there are like 4 divisions. If you win in the lowest division, you go up a division, and then next season you play in a higher division, and so on. And then you can make a custom league, I guess. So I think we're gonna go with this one, just a single league of random teams. Now, how many? Now, you might say, well, 10 teams, that's 10 episodes, right? That's enough. And then we could start over if we want to. But I kind of want a longer format, because 10 games isn't enough to gain a lot of levels on your players. How about 16 teams? Then we would have 15 games if this series actually were to go all the way. So let's play a single league with 16 teams. No playoffs or anything. There we go. You have joined a competition. Our first game is going to be against the Raging Revengers. Now, that seems to be good because they won't have any revenge on us, right? We haven't even played them yet. But they're raging, so they're humans. So it will be High Elves versus humans in the first game. But that will have to wait, because this is just the introduction. So if you want to see the first game for our elves and see how if I manage to play them alright, then you have to skip to the next video. But this was the introduction. This is Blood Bowl 2. Thanks so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed. And this is John Flip Sousa. Goodbye for now.